Hello, everyone. I'm Mattias, and today we're going to look at two companies that I think present very interesting value propositions to their investors and also to users of these companies. This video is not a deep dive into these companies. What it is a deep dive into the qualitative aspects that these two companies share, being marketplaces and platforms. The companies I'm doing a lot of research on right now are Uber Technologies as well as Netflix. I think both of them serve as great aggregators of demand, and they have all the supply. I think these companies have two different interesting value propositions that I'll go into now. So, what the value proposition of Uber is that this company is just misunderstood. This company is under threats of being disrupted by full self-driving. So this is the main market sentiment. While I believe this isn't the case, I believe Uber will function as the aggregator for all the demand. Full self-driving will not disrupt this company. Why will you have the Tesla app, the Waymo app, the Zoox app, the Baidu app, when you could just have all of it in one company? In other words, full self-driving technology will probably be commodified, and the platform to sort of aggregate all this commodified supply will be Uber, so they have the operating leverage. The other company I'm looking at right now is Netflix. I think Netflix offers another sort of interesting value proposition. In my opinion, Netflix serves a discrete lifetime value optimization machine. So Netflix has enormous scale, they have enormous reach, while also building the full stack ecosystem of a diverse set of content. So they have live events, they have streaming, they have the intellectual property, while also having the chance to sort of increase their value proposition with the purchase of Warner Bros. Discovery, while also having the characteristics of one of these long-term compounders that can sort of grow their prices, increase their prices with time. Viewers of my channel would know that I love me a good platform company. I've covered Amazon, Hims, and Duolingo on my channel until now, and these are all platform marketplace companies, huge aggregators of demand. I hold Hims, I hold Mercado Libre, Amazon, Duolingo, C Limited, Meta, and New Holdings. And these companies are platform companies. Palantir is evolving into the same thing, but it's not quite there yet. In today's video, I have a special guest who can help us gauge the qualitative aspects of what makes marketplaces and platform companies so lucrative and why I love investing in these companies so much. So basically, there's a lot of content and a lot of videos out there covering the financials of Netflix and Uber and all these platform companies. All of these companies are huge, immense revenue growth companies backed up by huge free cash flows. What does not show up in the financial statements is what we're gonna focus on in today's video. To help me cover this, we have the pleasure and the honor of bringing on to the channel fund manager, CEO, founder of NewDeal Invest, and now also my boss, Christiansen. Welcome to the channel.
Thanks, Matthias. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah, it is, as always. So this is the third time you're on my channel, but the first time in English. So I guess I could give you some time to sort of introduce yourself to the foreign audience who doesn't know you.
Yeah, I've been looking a lot on digital marketplaces and digital platforms for several years, also before I started my investment fund. Um, I learned a ton by studying Alibaba and C Limited, their Shopee platform, and that's really where I have my framework from. So and the last couple of years, it's been all about AI. So this was down memory lane to look at your questions and think about what I wanted to explain about. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, so today we're gonna cover these platform marketplace companies, and I find these companies incredibly interesting and fascinating, and I'm sure you do as well. Now, Mess, first of all, what are platform companies and marketplaces?
Yeah, so a platform business is a business that enables contact between different user groups. That's the short definition. So if we go back a little bit, then all commerce and business is around value chains. And in a value chain, you have transaction costs. So if I want to buy an apple in the Stone Age, I would have to go out and find an apple tree and pick it down, and maybe it was the wrong season, etc. So there is a lot of work in finding out what you want to, and value chains has been evolving. Like we have supermarkets now, we don't have to go to the farmer to buy stuff. So a lot of things is evolving, and in a value chain you have transaction costs and you have coordination costs. So my definition of that is that transaction cost is the difficulty around getting what you need as a consumer, as a customer. And in the case of buying a chicken, you don't have to go to the farmer. You need to go to the grocery. Maybe you want to look at what the prices are at different groceries. So you do a lot of things there in order for that to happen. If you need a new chair, you can either build it yourself. You can look up drawings and go chop down a tree and then build a tree. That would be sort of coordination costs, the efforts I have to make. Firms emerge where coordination costs are quite big. So it makes sense to make a firm that builds chairs instead of each individual has to go out and build 6 chairs for his living room. And coordination costs are what is inside the firm. It's the cost of hiring employees and training them and doing accounting and all that stuff. So firms emerge where coordination costs are lower than transaction costs. So it creates a benefit of creating a firm. But firms are typically they're linear stuff. You have inputs of various kinds. You have data, know-how, energy, money flowing in, and then you have an output of a higher value. And platforms are more they're not linear. They are sort of in the marketplace, and they facilitate connections between customers and sellers, etc., between businesses. So platforms their product is to reduce coordination costs. And that's different from many linear businesses, which are reducing transaction costs and getting coordination costs. So as platforms are reducing transaction costs. And so a platform business is a connection between two or more user groups. So if we should give some examples, then you have a dating platform. That would be a typical platform. You have men and women that wants to connect with each other. You an M&A broker is a platform in itself. He has two user groups. He has people that has a business they want to sell, and he has people that wants to buy a business. So he's connecting these user groups. So that is a platform. A bar is a platform where people come to meet and to connect. There are men and women, and there are some that just come to have fun, or some come to dance. So the DJ is a user group, etc. So there are lots of user groups in that. And a shopping mall is a platform. It reduces the transaction costs for the customers. They can go one place and they can find everything they need to buy. It's easy to compare prices, etc. So platforms are many types of businesses, but the product is to reduce transaction costs to enable interaction between buyers and sellers.
Yeah, so this actually offers a lot of nuance to my sort of conceptualization of platforms being these sort of aggregators of demand and supply that sort of um, how can you say it, erode friction at a huge scale. So this offers a lot of transparency into to what these companies are. So
Yeah, when you say aggregators, Mattias, sorry, then the typical aggregator is Google, right? Which is you have on one place you have people that shares information on the internet, and then on the other hand you have people that are searching for information on the internet. So Google is just the modern telephone book. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way to sort of put it. So there have been a lot of sort of failures in terms of creating these marketplaces, platforms. So in terms of identifying what makes a great marketplace company, what are some of the key elements to look at as an investor?
Yeah. I think one of the mistakes, and I think we'll get back to why, is that people look too much at the fundamentals, look at the numbers, and that's not a good measure of whether a marketplace or a platform will succeed or not. So what you need to look for is dominance. You want a platform that is able to dominate the space they're in. If you're looking to buy a bar in a small city, you want to figure out which bar is going to be the dominating bar, because that's going to be the good business of in the city. And yeah, if there are many bars in the city, then you want to find the bar that is dominating for its user groups. So I think bars um, for homosexuals tend to be quite a success. I think, at least in my city in Aarhus, there's been a bar for homosexuals, and it's been quite a success because they dominate their market, their user group, and so you don't want a bar that tries to be everything, but you want a bar that is being the marketplace for that specific user group. And so dominance is really important. And you talk about minimal viable products. So it's really important that you start narrow and dominate that, and then you can expand. So you don't want somebody trying to be everything. You want somebody being focused and dominating. And then the next thing that you want to look for is that it creates happy users, because that is what will make it grow. Once you have happy buyers and happy sellers, then the marketplace or the platform will be tipping towards you. It means you don't need to spend a lot in marketing. Your churn goes down and everything. So you want marketplaces that are creating happiness on the platform, and then you want it to grow. Growth will be sort of the tell that an easy tell that things are going good. So you want them to have a lot of users coming in. You want growth to be, you want them to, to get to dominance, you could say. So it's much more about the qualitative analysis than about the numbers when you look at a platform.
Yeah, because something like creating happiness really doesn't show up in the balance sheet, right? So how do you make a DCF model on happiness created by Uber, or sort of the lifetime value that Netflix keeps on creating by adding high quality content, creating happiness? So my fiance and I, we basically watch Netflix every night. So we have like these series that we look forward to watching, and it's very hard to sort of model this in a DCF in a DCF model. So another thing is, like you mentioned, creating happiness, and what this does is that it sort of starts a process of accelerating growth. So when you've reached like this stage of growth, how do you sort of gauge the competitive advantages of these platform companies?
Platforms, they reduce transaction costs without creating coordination costs. That's their business model, and that's what they do. So Yeah, yeah, you have to look for that. So Uber won versus taxi because they reduced the transaction costs. It was easy to get a taxi, but a taxi company increases the coordination costs, the complexity within a firm. You have to hire these guys. You have to make sure that they meet up, etc. So Uber solved that in a way where they didn't create so much coordination costs in the marketplace or in the business. So that's why they are better. So you kind of have to think about is a platform, a marketplace, a better solution, or is a business, a linear business, a better solution for this? And both of the business models come with pros and cons, etc. So it's really about what is best and what makes it tick. And there are a lot of platform businesses that have been attempted to make, and they didn't succeed because they were not just perfect. And within this business, it's very often that it's not the first iteration of a platform that succeeds. With credit cards, you had numerous credit cards until you had Visa and MasterCard that sort of ran with it. Facebook was not the first either. They were the one that got everything right. So it's really difficult sort of to predict what is right because we're building for the future. But if you want to look at competitive advantages of platforms, you have network effects, which is really important. A network effect is when a product gets better because somebody else joins. So if I go to McDonald's, my experience is unaffected of whether you were at McDonald's yesterday or something. It doesn't matter for that experience. But if I'm on Facebook and you come on Facebook, then it makes my Facebook experience better because now we can communicate via Facebook. So in the early days when telephony was starting, there was not much value in buying a phone because you couldn't call anybody really. But then eventually, when more and more people got on, when your network got on the telephone, then the value increased a lot, and that's network effects. So once you have network effects coming, that's really good. They're positive. They are feedback loops. They will be both positive and negative. A lot of people have sort of network effects is really good, but yes, they're really good when they're positive, but when they are negative, they really suck. So when people stop having a phone, your friends stop having a phone, your tendency to keep paying for a phone, it just goes away. So they are also a risk for investors, and you need to be aware of that. Then you have data um, being sort of being the one that reduces coordination costs. Being at that point really enables you to collect a lot of data, and that will enable you to figure out what are people's how do people like you to decrease coordination costs? What are the pain points? When do people stop using the sort of all of that? So you get a lot of data, and that's a competitive advantage. Then on a platform, if you're not a shopping mall, but if you're many other platform businesses, your growth will be without internal resources. You don't have to buy new taxis or anything. You grow because Uber drivers are coming in and they bring their own taxi. So you can really grow a lot without investing a lot of resources in it. Then you have something I call flexible economies. So you can switch exchange economies between the user groups, and that is easier for you. So what you need to understand is that you are the governor. You are the government of your platform. You decide everything. You're the dictator. So you decide who pays what, and that's your job. And it's your job to do a good to make it nice for people to be on your platform. A country is a platform as well, where you compete with other countries trying to make the best terms for your citizens. So in a bar, for instance, it can be quite hard to get the women to come to the bar and get them to come there. And if the women don't come there, the men don't come, and then you have no customers. So one of the things you can do there is subsidize costs. So you can give free drinks to the women, then the women will come to the bar, and then the men will come to the bar. So that's a way of exchanging costs between the user groups, and it's very Google and Meta, etc. They give a lot of their services for free because then then you have to look at their stuff, and then they have another user group which will pay for everything via advertisements. So you have the flexibility that can be harder to create if there is not a dictator of the ecosystem. And then I think something that people are really not pricing in is the optionalities. So optionalities is the businesses that you could make in the future. Um, and um, and once you have a network with a lot of users engaging a lot, you can really make a ton of different businesses. And I think Mercado Libre is really a good example. They had the commerce platform, and then they made the digital financial platform, and they are selling ads, they're selling car insurances, they're selling so much things. They're just constantly evolving their business model on what they can bring. So you have a distribution system. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this whole point of optionalities is very interesting to me because as my Danish viewers would know, one of my favorite aspects of a company is when it takes what it's learned in solving one pain point and using it in solving another one. And I think Mercado Libre is a great example of this, right? And also Nu is a great example. Hims is an amazing example of
Yeah.
this. Yeah, so another thing I would like to sort of put in terms of competitive advantages, I don't know if it's directly translatable to long-term growth, but I think especially when you digitalize platforms and marketplaces, you have price transparency, which is also something that you don't have in real life. So when you order a taxi in Denmark, you have no idea what the price is before you have to pay. Whereas you can see the price beforehand on Uber and stuff. So I think that's very interesting. And that,
Yeah, and that's coordination costs, right?
yeah.
Because in real life, you'll have to call taxi company A and taxi company B, etc., to figure out where do I get the best price.
Mm,
But in a digital economy, you just have it right away, and that creates. Yeah, I'm from Jutland, so I take care of my money.
yeah.
So I spend a lot of time figuring out where things are cheapest, and that's easy on a digital platform.
Yeah, yeah, and also so I'm the same. I'm not from Jutland, but my mom is, and I would rather walk 10 kilometers than take
Yeah.
a Danish taxi. So I think hopefully Uber, the thing with big proprietary data sets as well is that you can offer more precise pricing. So you have a bigger so what I think Netflix really succeeded with was this whole price the value that you get. So you can pay an X amount of money to get X amount of value, and they really managed to find this sort of perfect crossing point for this whole thing. So I think we covered their competitive advantages a lot. But what I do think is interesting in terms of these marketplace companies is that once you win, it seems like you win big. So Amazon is a great example, Netflix. So why do you think that these platform companies are characterized by winner take most economies?
Yeah, I think it's the feedback loops. So once you have a positive feedback loop spinning for one company, then they're winning. and once it turns negative, then they're losing. You can't be there is not stability with more solutions going around. So what usually creates an ability to be the second biggest company doing something is that being a really big company, it disables your ability to cater to more and more marginal customers. So if you're a very big company, supermarket chain, then you'll be selling this type of tomatoes. It's on scale, and that will be the right type of tomatoes for most people. But there will be people that want different tomatoes, and you can't serve them really well when you become big. So when you become big, you sort of decide this is the service, and then you lose the marginal customer. So you'll have room for smaller businesses serving more and more marginal customers. But once you digitize these big companies, then you actually enable them also to serve the marginal customers better and better. So you know that if you're a supermarket chain and you're digitized, then you'll know that this supermarket here has a lot of people that has this taste for tomatoes. So you drive out that type of tomatoes to that supermarket, but not to the other supermarkets. So you can cater for more and more marginal customer groups once you digitize a business. And once you go the Taobao route or Shopee route, where the business or the supermarket is digitized, and it's then you can really cater to the most marginal customers anyway. And that's what digital can. It enables you to have a high local knowledge about a user or a community or a city or something, so that you can cater to everybody. And that's why digitization really enables huge scale. You also when you scale a digital company, you don't get diseconomies of scale. So when you build a factory and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, then you eventually create bureaucracy. So the production price of chairs on a factory is going down when you scale, and then eventually it'll start going up again per unit, and that's diseconomies of scale. And that's because you have more and more people in your organization. But if you have a digital organization, then you don't increase the number of people so much. So it takes a longer time before you have diseconomies of scale. Instead, you have economies of you have advantages of data sets, as you said, in that company. So bigger companies are stronger and more efficient in a digitized age.
Uh, you're probably the only one who could see me smiling from ear to ear because I kept thinking about Nu and Mercado Libre. This really reminds me of what you just said because the way that they sort of started growing to such a large scale was offering like down to $100 loans
Yeah.
that the incumbent banks just refused to do. So they want the small customer, and then the small customer grew with them. And I'm also sort of thinking about Lemonade, the insurance company. So this is a very interesting point. I think we could talk about this for a couple days. Uh,
Yeah,
um,
and exactly on financial platforms, the data you gather on the marketplace for Mercado Libre, you can use that to price the risk on $100 loan. But
yeah,
you could never hire an employee to sit and think about, could we give this $100 loan where we would earn 10% in interest rate yearly? That would be $10. You cannot spend much time on that at all.
no. Yeah, and what it also, in terms of like these marketplaces, you said that the optionality was important. So what it allows, especially Mercado Libre, to do is like these consumers who take the loans, buy inventory that they sell on their marketplace. So it just spins their flywheel effect. So sort of to transition onto my next question with valuation. So as I mentioned, like when people take a loan on the Mercado Libre platform, they use that money to sort of buy inventory to sell on that platform, right? So this is sort of spins a flywheel effect, which doesn't really show up on the balance sheet, right? So when Mercado Libre loans money out, that decreases their cash flows, and when they get money in, it increases their cash flows. But what you really want is them loaning money out so they can spin this flywheel. So you can sort of build on this. But why is valuing these companies like in the traditional ways such a difficult task?
Yeah, so if you look at accounting practices as they are designed today, they are designed um, maybe 100 years ago or more, at a time where factories were sort of the business model. You had physical assets, and that was kind of the core of your business. So that's what accounting practices is designed, and sort of what people has become really good at valuing and figuring out, how about. But these types, this way of accounting does not really put value on data. Network effects is not valuable. Scale is not valuable. Knowledge is not valuable. Like Meta is buying these guys that has knowledge. We've seen Nvidia buy Grok, and they do that to get Jonathan Ross in
Yeah.
house, but he doesn't appear on the balance sheet of Nvidia afterwards. He's just an expense where he should be an active, just like if you bought a new factory or something.
Mhm.
Um, Optionality, there's no way to put that in the accounting. So the accounting, the way we account and the way we think about accounting is not designed for immaterial property, and does not recognize it. And that's there is no good solution for it. If you want there's a guy called Michael Mabusang. He's been writing a lot about this problem, and trying to figure out how to assess IP, but there is no good solution for it, and that's actually kind of one of our core strategic concepts in NewDeal Invest, that we recognize that the people trying to do valuation on these companies, they're really trying something that is not doable or is extremely difficult. So I'm not saying you shouldn't value. You need to value to invest, but you just need to recognize that this is extremely difficult, and maybe numbers are not the right way. So if I should suggest a way to do it, or to invest in these, I would try to assess whether the feedback loops are spinning in the right way. And if they're not, I would sell in a really big hurry, because then it could be a disaster. But if they are spinning, then it's probably good to be on board. And then you need to understand that if it's a telephone business, when the penetration is 30% and it's accelerating, then it's a good time. But when the penetration is 90%, then it's not, the growth coming forward is not so good, unless you can see optionalities and new businesses emerging. So you need something that is spinning the right way, and you can look at GMV. Is that growing? So GMV is gross merchandise value. That's how much, if it's a marketplace, how much is being sold by buyers and sellers, and if that's growing, then it's nice. If it's a financial platform, it's transaction, it's TPV, transaction volume. If it's a bank, it's lending volume. So, but look at these metrics and see if the activity is growing nicely. And then you can look at marketing costs, and marketing costs can be a sign of strength or a sign of weakness. But if you have a company like Mercado Libre or C Limited, and you see them firing on marketing costs, then it's usually a good sign because they are digitally driven. So they are not going to market unless they see a good return on marketing investment. And sort of what you need to consider is this a sign of panic? Is this because a new competitor is taking market share and they are trying to to take the oxygen out of the room for that new market player? Then it would not be a good sign. But so for C Limited, when you have a year where the margins are contracting and people say, "Wow, this is not nice," then it's actually often a sign of strength because they are giving free shipping and their marketing. So you need to understand what are the moving parts around this. So yeah, and then what you should not look so much at is margins. Um, because the digital business model that has really emerged and is a success, it's all about getting to positive cash flows and then reinvesting that positive cash flow into new optionalities, test new things, make your customers even more happy to sort of keep the thing spinning. So Amazon didn't get that big by paying out dividends and hoarding cash. They got that big by just reinvesting all the time. So you cannot use margins for very much. There is a concept called take rate, which is the amount of the GMV that is turned into revenue for the business, and it's just nonsense. It's so difficult because take rates might fall when you give free shipping, because then the shipping revenue falls, and then take rate is falling. But it's actually because we are seeing good evidence that customers are coming in. So they're hard to grasp, and I think you just need to be long term and be very qualitative instead of quantitative in it.
Yeah, so we can expand on this, but I would like to add in terms of take rates. I think you were the one who told me, but when you have a marketplace company, you sort of have to juggle between the interests of the sellers and the
Yeah.
buyers. And the thing with my issue with take rates in general is that they fluctuate by quite a lot based on what side of the equation the given company is prioritizing at the given point. So when you prioritize like your sellers, you probably decrease that take rate, right? So they get more, but you could increase that at another point.
Yeah. The focus on take rate is really uh, from from the last generation of tech companies. If you go to what were they called? If you go to the tech companies of the 60s and 70s, they were these marketing machines that needed size so they could dominate the marketplace, and then they would create small monopolies. And once they had small monopolies, they would increase their profit margin. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a company becoming dominant and then increasing its margins. Uh, but but um, but but in a marketplace, you don't do that. You want to create more happiness. So if you start charging more, you're probably making people less happy, your customers on either user group. So yeah, so it's uh, happiness is first priority, and then you can earn money afterwards.
Yeah, and especially reading through like Jeff Bezos's shareholder letters, um, he says that buyers are beautifully discontent and that they're very, very loyal to your platform right up until the moment someone else offers more value.
Yeah.
So, so I think that's very interesting as well. So do not focus on margins, do not focus on take rate. I think you should focus on how well the company executes on what they say out to execute on. So I made recently I did videos on Amazon, Hims, and Duolingo, where I sort of tried to do a reverse discounted cash flow, but you sort of look stupid doing it with these companies, right? Because they do not focus on maximizing their free cash flow at this current moment, but they focus on using their net income strategically in order to create more value. So what you end up doing is measuring them on the wrong sort of is measuring them on the wrong parameters. It would be equal to sort
Yeah,
of measuring
exactly.
Messi on how many tackles he did in a game, right? So I think you should be very contextually driven. So it would make sense to look at the free cash flows for sort of these mature business models that do not invest into their growth. So car factories and such. Whereas looking at the free cash flow development of an Amazon in the short term is just so much misleading, right?
Yeah, yeah, and especially when these companies are so big, they have so many optionalities. You cannot, you don't know what they're investing in. Like Amazon has been investing in Project Kuiper, low-hanging satellite networks. That affects your cash flow, but you have no way of assessing it. So you're looking at something that really is kind of random, and you don't understand the context of it. And that's why I say you really need to be respectful of trying to value value digital native companies in by using by using the numbers.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And also, what does not show up in these numbers is one thing we touched upon very quickly, but can you get into maybe these flywheel effects that some of these platform companies have?
Yeah, so the flywheels are the feedback loops that will emerge, and I think one of the flywheels that are really important these days is the data, because when you have usage on a platform, then you get feedback, and that's data. So you know how to make how to improve your product. We call it AI logging loops, kind of, I don't know, 5 years ago. And that was about knowing, having the local knowledge we talked about. And now we have AI that is thinking, and that enables us to create sort of a higher level of data. I think the best example is that if there is a lawyer platform that is digitized, so it's kind of a SaaS business where a lot of the legal stuff and the also sort of adhering to all the rules, etc., about keeping customer data and sort of is built in, and that's nice on the platform. But then, if a lawyer is writing a contract, then he can use the platform to suggest a sentence or suggest alterations to the platform, and the platform will then get feedback from whether the lawyer uses the suggestions that is made, or deters back to the original version. And eventually, the platform will collect data on when we use this phrase, how often does it end in a dispute in court, or how often is it settled before going to court? So the platform will understand more and more about the outcomes of using certain phrases, and will be good at at suggesting phrases that will benefit and create better results. And that is proprietary data for that platform that only that company owns. Sort of the common data about who am I, where do I live, what kind of car do I have. That's available a lot of places, but usage is more specialized. Meta has a lot of data about how ads look when they work, when they get clicks, how do we predict which customer is going to use it? Grab is a really good example of this, where when they they sort of monitor the drivers when they're driving through a city in the middle of rush hour, and Grab's map will be able to enable the driver to get from point A to point B at the shortest period of time in that precise moment, and by that precise driver on that precise vehicle that he's using, because it'll be different whether it's an aggressive driver or a more calm driver, and whether it's a car or a scooter. Or so that's proprietary data as well, and that's a big advantage for Grab actually in Southeast Asia. SoundHound is another example I think is interesting here. They do verbal chat for car companies. If you enables you to talk to your car, and for ordering, drive-through ordering, etc. And they collect a lot of data on background noise, on dialects, on what people say, what people want, because that has to be a precise product. You cannot just use OpenAI's chat GPT for that. You need something that has a lot of data on where does things go wrong. So I think that is an important flywheel, that once you get to a certain size, a certain scale, you start collecting a lot of data that enables you to improve your services.
What we've talked about now seems like a medley of a lot of different intellectual sort of practices, right? So not only looking at the numbers, because obviously it's important to know what sort of monetary leverage a company has, but you have to sort of take into account the qualitative aspects as well. The way you presented this makes it sort of sound like valuation is irrelevant. But I know I'm wrong
Yeah,
because I do
yeah.
know you. So how do you sort of value platform companies, marketplaces, technology companies?
Yeah. So what we do in NewDeal Invest is that we do we look at the DCF, and then we look at what is priced in right now. Try to understand that, and then given that, we have an assessment whether we think that what is priced in right now is pessimistic, or whether it seems overly optimistic, and that will make us bearish or bullish. So what we also tend to look at is try to assess the market's perception of the price. A stock like Sea Limited, I think it's undervalued I think it's trading at 50% of the price, but it's always been there. So in order to navigate in that, to sell, to take profits sometimes, I look a lot at what the market's assessment of the price is. So I look at the professional segment. I listen to what other portfolio managers think about it, and I listen to what the investment bankers, analysts say, and think. And on Sea Limited, the first question is always about take rates. So it matters what their take rate is, because when the take rate is going down, the market will probably sell out. So that means I'll have to be careful, or maybe to reduce my position a little bit. And then we look at the retail segment, the media. What does the media say about the businesses? Do they say there is a bubble? then then we need to be careful. And then naturally the Twitter buzz. And when something is very popular on Twitter, you need to consider to take down your position size a bit. And when it's very pessimistic on Twitter, then it's probably a good time to increase, if you think the business is sort of spinning, humming the way it should be.
So sort of the proverbial taxi driver
Yeah.
example of when you're I think we should say like when your Uber driver mentions it, it's probably
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
context for this video.
yeah, yeah. just to sort of anchor the video back. So, Mess, I appreciate you so much for coming on to the channel, but sort of to the international audience, how can we find you? So, how can we keep tabs with what you're doing, with what NewDeal Invest is doing?
Yeah, so I think a good spot to look is at eToro. We have a partner portfolio there called NDI Future Tech, and we post stock analysis and analysis of segments like the AI value chain, etc., on the wall on NDI Future Tech. So that's probably a good spot, and then you can find me at LinkedIn or on Twitter. We have a weekly newsletter that is coming out.
Yeah, so I'll link to all that in the description. And
Thanks.
obviously, you should subscribe to the New Deal Invest channel. So this video is posted on both my channel and the New Deal Invest channel. You should subscribe to both. But also, Mess does videos on the New Deal Invest channels. He covered the USM framework, which New Deal Invest uses to gauge sentiment, which is a very interesting way to sort of look at it qualitatively. Mess, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Great pleasure.
So in order to conclude this video, why do I like platform companies so much? It's because they all run on proprietary datasets, allowing them to spin the flywheel of user optimization, which in turn increases their scale, thus further accelerating this data-driven user experience optimization process. In other words, they are, if done correctly, engines of self-optimization. We see this with Netflix. We see this with Uber. So this video is in no way investment advice. This is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. Mass is not your financial advisor. We do not make any purchasing advice in this video. We do not financially advise you. So you should do your own research. This video serves as a guideline for a way to you to do this research. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and thank you for watching. See you next time.